What's going on, everyone? My name is Tom from Dreadlabs, and today we're going to recreate Pop Smoke's Woo Star ring.
Dreadlabs.
Alright everyone, today we're going to do another redesign, this time in Cinema 4D fully. Basically, I asked my followers on Instagram and Twitter if they wanted me to redesign a couple of things, and they could send requests my way. And someone sent me the Woo Star ring, Pop Smoke. So don't really listen to him, but from what I see, it's like one of his gimmicks, I guess. And he made a ring out of it. Correct me if I'm wrong on this. Anyways, yeah, it's a fairly simple model in Cinema 4D. I reckon you can do this in pretty much any 3D software. Same goes for the material that we're going to use. But yeah, as usual, I am going to do mine in Cinema 4D with Octane Render. That's just the software I work in. But again, this is probably on such a simple level that you can recreate it if you are familiar with other 3D software. Alright, so let's start from scratch, and the first thing I'm going to do is create these stars. And there's actually an easy preset for this under the 2D shapes section here. I'll make a star and we'll give that 5 points, and we'll just keep everything pretty much the same here. But what we want to do first is rotate this thing so that it's actually like perfectly aligned to the middle here, and I think it was like 18 degrees in the B rotation. I think it's a Z rotation, but I'm not sure why there's like a B here. Anyways, this should pretty much do it. The next thing we're going to do is extrude this. And if you don't know about the extrude, that's basically a way to make 3D shapes out of 2D shapes, if that makes sense. So we just made a star, a child over extrude here. We'll go to object, and I'm just going to push this up a little bit. And we don't really need the node editor for this video anyway, so you guys can see what I'm doing here. So in the direction, I'm going to just click Z just to be sure. It's the same direction, but sometimes it gets a little laggy, or if you like put in something from Illustrator or something, things get weird. I'm going to use the offset of 10 centimeters, keep it subtle. And under the caps, I'm just going to do a 2 centimeter cap. I think that's enough for this. I'm going to make another duplicate here. So I'm going to copy this and paste it in. We'll call the bottom one inner star, and we'll call the top one outer star. And under the star menu of the outer star, we're actually going to change the outer radius, and I think 220 was fine, and then the inner radius I'm going to type in 115. So yeah, if you have different scales, you gotta play with this a little bit, because if you do like 20 centimeter in both angles, as you can see, this doesn't really line up perfectly, and probably 115 doesn't as well, but it's okay for my standards, I guess. So in the top view, I just want to move this thing 10 centimeters to the back here. And under the extrude menu of the outer star, let's extrude this thing 90 centimeters. So we have a nice thick star in all directions. So the next thing I want to do is round this. And pretty much the idea of this tutorial is I want to teach you how to make Y2K shapes in general. And if you've seen the secret to Y2K logos video that I put up a couple of months ago, you know that Y2K logos like to have like rounded edges. So that's what we're going to do today with these stars here as well. So we'll grab the inner star first, and I'm going to press C on my keyboard to make it editable. And I'm actually going to turn off our extrudes for a second. And under the star that we just made editable, I'm going to grab the points here, and I'm going to click on all the outer points. And you want to hold Shift on your keyboard to select multiple points here. Then you're going to go right click and click on chamfer. And basically the chamfer option helps you round off stars. As you can see, the more we drag this out, the rounder the edge will be. And something like this should be fine, I think. So let's do it one more time with the outer star as well. So we're going to select the outer star, click here with this like top icon here, or you can also press C on your keyboard and click on the points here, and we're going to select the outer points by holding Shift on our keyboard and clicking on them. Right click on chamfer and drag this to the right again, so we round out our points a little bit. And we'll just click here so we have a nice front view, and this is fine, I guess. So So I'm going to turn the extrudes back on, and as you can see, we now automatically apply this to the extrude as well. That's really nice about Cinema 4D and these MoGraph things. I think they're called MoGraphs effects. I don't know. Anyways, looking good so far. So the next part of this is basically making the ring itself. So I'm going to go into the multi-view mode, and we're going to add one circle, and we're going to scale the circle. So we're going to make the circle editable immediately by pressing C on our keyboard. And we're going to click on the model mode here and on the scale tool, and we'll scale this thing. Let's just do like 150% in this axis, which is the Z axis. Alright, so the next thing I want to do is check off the closed spline button here under the circle menu. And with that you can see that there's an opening here now. So what I want to do is rotate this full object so that it matches up around, you know, the way that we want this ring to be in. And by rotating it 180 degrees in this direction and moving it a little bit to the right. This is probably the position that our ring would be in. And looking at this, I kind of want to scale it up a little bit. So let's just scale this up 150%. And now we're going to go back to the circle, and we're going to click on the close spline button again. And actually we're going to click on intermediate point subdivided. This makes our ring a little bit smoother. Okay, so this part is a little bit tricky, but basically we want to use the pen tool to add a couple of points here, so that when we check off the box of the close spline button, this thing lines up so that it ends around like the star here. So I did a little bit of experimenting, and I'm just going to go and cue a quick time lapse on how I do this, because it's a little bit tricky and I have to move a couple of things here and there. Alright guys, so I figured it out, sorry. Yeah, this is one part of a Cinema 4D that I actually haven't really mastered, as you can see probably. Anyways, there was an easy fix to this. Basically rotate the shape until there's an opening around here. So yeah, sorry about that. And the next part we basically want to do is make this a 3D shape as well. So what we want to do is go to here and click on sweep while holding Alt or Option on your keyboard. And then go back and add another circle while holding Shift on your keyboard. As you can see, we now have a sweep. That basically means that we wrap the top shape around the first shape. In our case, we wrap a circle around our ring shape here. But as you can see, it's really large, so let's just scale down the circle here to something like this, I guess. So if we look at our reference, the line is actually tapered as well. So yeah, it starts large here and it's like getting smaller along the way. So that's what we're going to do here as well. Basically in the sweep object, you want to go to object, click on the drop down button and the details tab, and this way you can add lines that will scale down your sweep over time basically. As you can see, we now kind of have this, and if you want to do this a little bit more intricate, you can also add points here by holding Control or Command on your keyboard, so you can determine where the thickness of the line actually is. Perhaps we can make it a little bit smaller around the edge here. Something like this should do the trick. Then the next problem with the sweep is that it ends like kind of abruptly, and we can fix that by going to caps in the sweep menu, and we'll just add something like this, and I'll add some segments as well. And that should look fine. If it's not really smooth, you can just add more segments here, like that. So yeah, let's just group the star for a minute. I do that by holding Option or Alt and G on my keyboard. And I'm going to rename the sweep to ring. So yeah, you might want to do a little bit of placing still. In my case, I may just rotate the star ever so slightly, or the ring, doesn't really matter. So something like this should be fine. Alright, so let's just group everything together. And I'm gonna add a camera. And I'm gonna change the focal length of this camera to 50. And I'm actually going to make my composition square based. So 1280 by 1280 should be fine. And what we want to do now is basically just rotate our Woostar ring so that it's in the correct position. So something like this is probably fine. And I'm actually going to make the circle a little bit larger now looking at it. So something like this should do the trick as well. Alright, so the next part is basically adding some material into this, and the way we're going to do that is by adding an HDRI environment, or as some people in Vanilla Cinema 4D, they probably use a sky object for this. But yeah, this is essentially the same thing. So under texture, I'm going to add a gradient. And to immediately see if we can get that like nice, like kind of fake looking metallic reflection, I'm going to add a material as well, and it's going to be a metallic material. And we can just apply this to the Woostar ring, and don't really have to do anything else other than that. I'm just going to save my project real quick. Alright, so now let's get back to the gradient that we just made. Basically adding more colors and more changes into this gradient will modify your ring here. So if I just make a new white color in the gradient, as you can see, this immediately starts to look like what we really want to achieve here. What you can also do is, if you feel like this is a little bit too like black and white for you, you could add some really subtle blue tones in there. So I'm just going to go to the blue hue, and with a saturation of 15%, I'm just going to add it in here. And then go back to a pure white as well. Let's see where that fits in nicely. And from here on, it's basically just experimenting a little bit and see what works for you and what doesn't. So I reckon that this is something that already looks pretty well in my opinion. Let's see if we can get like a nice fade in the star itself with a blue shade here. And I think this is doing pretty well. So if you want to do a transparent render in Octane, let's just make sure that we click on Alpha Channel and remove the environment. Put the renderer to Octane Render and pick a save point. Make sure that the format is PNG and the Alpha Channel is set on. And that makes us good to go. Alright guys, there you have it. The Woostar ring by Pop Smoke, or you know, making Y2K shapes in general in Cinema 4D. So the main takeaway from this tutorial is that you can do a lot of Y2K related shapes by just playing around with these stars, rounding those edges with the chamfer option, and basically go nuts with these sweeps and, you know, trying to get these like organic fluid shapes in there while using some nice gradients and some chrome materials. So yeah, if you want to get the project file for this tutorial, you can get it by actually becoming a patron of mine. So if you don't know, by becoming a patron, you'll get access to all of the project files from all of my tutorials, a 15% discount in my asset web store, as well as an exclusive Discord role on the Dreadlabs Discord server. If you go one tier up, you'll also get access to exclusive tutorials, such as how to create a death metal logo from scratch, and the project files that come with those videos. So yeah, a huge shout out to my patrons. Thank you so much, because you really help me keep up the weekly videos and make me be able to do Dreadlabs full time. Without you, I definitely wouldn't be able to do this, so thank you. So if you want to become a patron yourself, there's a link down in the description. And if you don't want to become one, that's also completely fine. You can also support Dreadlabs and the YouTube channel by leaving a like, a comment and a subscribe if you haven't already. With all of that being said, this was Tom from Dreadlabs tuning out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.